gamers? I'm Jason.
I'm Julie.
And today on Dice & Dragons, we are going to be reviewing Thunderstone Quest, designed by Mike Elliott, with set design by Bryan Reese and Mark Wotton. Now, the game is published by AEG, also known as Alderac Entertainment Group. With that being said, Julie's going to tell you more about the game itself.
So we did another competitive game. I think it's 2 in a row.
It is 2 in a row. I think this might be a little different in terms of your opinion, though.
It's a 2 to 4 player game that plays in 60 to 90 minutes for ages 14 and above. It's, I believe, a deck builder. Are you going to correct me?
No, it is definitely a deck building game. More so than I'd even think some other deck builders. You get a nice deck of cards going there. Not that much chance to thin the deck either.
So you going to tell them a little bit more about the game?
Yes. So what are you doing in the game? Well, you are a champion leading a team of heroes on a quest. Now, the game can be played in a one-off manner or in a continuing series of quests. You can play them one-off as well. You can also play it campaign mode. What is happening? You have a village. You will be moving to different locations in the village, buying cards, building your deck, then entering the dungeon to slay monsters, and the person with the most victory points at the end of the game will be the victor. Now, for those of you that did see the unboxing video for Thunderstone Quest Barricades, we will try out the cooperative mode, one of the big reasons why I got the game, but we decided to learn the original version first.
Mm-hmm.
So what time is it now, Julie?
It's time to grab our drinks.
Grab our best friend or our rival at this point?
We're never rivals. We gotta take it to the table.
We're gonna take it to the table.
Mm-hmm.
2 competitive games in a row, and I know your opinions on this one are going to be interesting. Excited to hear them. Now let's take a look at the components and the setup for Thunderstone Quest. As this is a very component-heavy game, we are just going to set up the game, review the components, because it's going to give you an idea as to what you're getting in the box. As we got the Kickstarter Champions Pledge, we have the first 4 quests, and I believe the set is could be close to 500 cards, so fairly difficult to showcase everything. With that being said, let's get started and let's take a look at the components. First thing we're going to do is take a look at the rulebook and the quest book. Now, I'm just going to put the quest book down here, and we will start with the rulebook. You've got a nice quick reference guide on the back, and what I do like about it is it's got a very nice walkthrough. It's well set up, well detailed, easy to understand, and what I found very helpful is at the back of the book, you have your campaign log as well as the FAQ, which can definitely answer some questions that come up in the game. Now, I'm just going to put this away and we're going to take a look at the aforementioned quest book. Now, with the quest book, you get all the information you need for the first quest all the way up through Ripples in Time if you have the Kickstarter Champions Pledge. I don't know what's in the retail version. It's possible you get the same quest book, but just not the cards for the other quest. So as you can see, it's got a list of the contents for Thunderstone Quest. Gives you a nice example. And then when you're looking at the individual quests, it tells you everything that comes in those quest packages. So you got your heroes, items, spells, weapons, monsters level 1, 2, and 3, the guardians, treasures, dungeon rooms, and the other things, the random dividers. It'll also show you how to set up the dungeon tiles, which we'll do next, and which cards you're going to be using for the quest. In this case, it's a Mirror in the Dark, Rumblings from the Past. Now, I'm just going to set the quest book down. I want to show you some of the other components that we talked about. Now, every player is going to have a miniature, so we do get some really cool champions miniatures. These are the guys essentially leading your army of heroes that you can be building. Now, none of them have any names in like the heroes, but I'll showcase the different miniatures. Now, this is a 1 to 4 player game, but the game does provide you with some variety, giving you 6 miniatures to choose from. And overall, they're good quality, but those 2 right there are by far my favorites, just picking them up. I know the camera's a little far away, so you're probably not seeing them as much detail as I would like. But as you can see, you've got a nice representation of all of the different races. Now, let's get this stuff out of here. Take a look also at the dice. Now, these may or may not come up during your quest. Depends on the cards that you get. And you get a total of 5 6-sided dice included with the game. We discussed what you get with the quest. Now, this is an example of what you're going to get for At the Foundations of the World. As you can see right here, there are 3 different packages of cards containing everything you need to play the quest. So in the game, we got a total of enough for 4 quests plus the basic starting cards. As would also mention, you will get dividers. Now, these are not the ones for the specific quest. These are more for the 2 quests we haven't opened with At the Foundations of the World. So as you can see, dividers for monsters, heroes, items, spells, and just to help you organize your game. So we've gone over that. I will keep the quest book nearby so I can reference it. And we're going to start setting up the quest, A Mirror in the Dark, Rumblings from the Past. So we've got the description as to how we're going to set up the room tiles. So we're going to go ahead with that. Now, the 0 tile is always the wilderness. Now, I'm hoping that nothing is cut off here. I've done my best to maximize the space. If anything really gets cut off, it's not that important. I'll double check and make sure that it won't affect us teaching you how to play. But as you can see, there may be some stuff that is important. So just keep that in mind. You might not see something, but we're not going to really talk about the Guardian combat, which is the only thing that may be cut off on the left edge here. So we've got our level 1 rooms. We have the mine and the abandoned gate. And now just before I forget, all the rooms are double-sided. So if you do want to make a random adventure, you can just shuffle them up and pick random ones. We have the sunken well. We have the throne room, the vault, and the crypt. Now, I want to just go over the room tiles so you're aware what happens with them. So you can see any bonuses here. For example, in the throne room, victory points, lanterns, the amount of light needed to get into the room. So if you're going all the way down here, you need a total of 3 light. Any after battle effects are listed here, and some effects that may happen when you enter the room or because you are in the room will be listed here, and anything that has effects like that has the alert icon listed above. So that's how you're going to set up the dungeon for the first quest. Now, I'm going to just remove the quest book. And we'll quickly take a look at how to set up your hero. And this is your hero board. Now, this really isn't going to be on camera. I'm really going to keep it off camera just as a reference. All it's really doing is tracking my hit points, my player deck, rations, side quests, guild sponsorships, all show everything. And also the 2 different phases you may undergo, the village or the dungeon phase. You got a nice explanation. Don't worry, we're going to go over all of that in our how to play. No, we're continuing setting stuff up. So to the side of the game board, you're going to need the Festering Wounds. They may or may not come up during your playthrough. They won't come up in the first quest that you play, but essentially these are wounds that will go into your deck. So move that aside. And when you're talking about the starting player decks, let's take a look at the different cards you get. So you get lanterns. Now with regards to the lantern, it does let you go from a village phase right to a dungeon phase only in the wilderness, which is key to leveling up some of your heroes. It also gives you 1 light otherwise. And you can see the gold generation right there. We have the Thunderstone shards, which generate 2 gold and also add skills to your hero. If you have a wound, you may trigger this special ability during the village or dungeon phase. We have the daggers, which are starting weapons. Also the special effect if you're in the dungeon. And then you start with 6 starting adventurers. So this is going to be the starting set of cards that I'm placing now just off camera with the hero board. Now we need to select the Thunderstone Guardian. I've opened up 3 of the quests as you can see here. Well, we got Guardian of Suns, the Death Sentinel. However, we are playing the first game, so it's going to be Smorga the Queen. These other guys will go back into the box. Just want to show you what you get. And what you'll see here is there's different levels. So level 4 is during the first quest, 5 during the second quest, and, sorry, I had them backwards, 5 during the second and 6 during the last quest. That's because I shouldn't say quest, I should say phase of the quest. Each quest is divided up into 3 parts. Now, for the first quest, we're fighting Smorga the Queen. She doesn't show up until the end game, so we start with a giant rat as the first villain in the wilderness. And as you notice, it reminds me of the Princess Bride, and I really like that. So we've retired that. Let's take a look at some of the other components that we're going to need. So we have bread. We've got all the tokens. There's a total of 16 of them that we're going to place in the bazaar. And if anything is cut off on the board, I apologize. I tried to fit everything and make sure that at least the text was clear. I do believe you might not see the 10 down here, but treasures cost 10. And we'll cover that in just a second. We have then the potions, which there are 16 of as well. And unfortunately, we did not get any lanterns from AEG. They were missing in our box. We got an extra set of potions. So I'm just going to leave them in the bag to symbolize that they are the lanterns. Actually, you know what? I'm only going to put out a few of them. I'm not going to leave the bag. It can probably be a little bit more reflective of the light, but just to symbolize that they are lanterns, we'll make sure they're visible. But another good news in terms of customer service, the lanterns are on the way. Next, we do have the XP tokens, which I'm just going to place a few at the top of the board as we're just doing a quick overview. We've got the black tokens, which are 5 denominations of 5. Then we have a large batch of gray tokens, which are denominations of 1, and those are essentially the Thunderstones. Now we need to keep setting up the game. So we will take the treasure cards. You can tell they're treasure cards by the treasure symbol at the bottom. These have been shuffled, that's why some of them are upside down. I'm just going to fix these all up, going through my OCD quickly here. You'll see what you get. Some of them may just be treasure catches and you gain that reward. Shuffle them up quickly and they go into the shop of Arcane Wonders. Now, if you're going through all your components, you may have noticed these silver cards here. These are legendary cards that are only gained through the completion of side quests. Don't worry, we're going to showcase the side quests in a moment. Just wanted to showcase the legendary cards, which I most likely won't be using for the how to play. We now need to set up the marketplace. As was shown in the quest book, we're setting up the spells, Future Vision, Magic Missile, and Fireball. We have 2 items available, the Gem of Healing and the Tome of Knowledge. We then have 3 different weapons, the hammer, short bow, and the short sword. We also need to take out and set up the heroes that we're going to be using for the game. But just to show you what you would do actually if you're playing just a random game, you've got these nice examples of all the different heroes. And you can see on the back, these are randomizers. So you can just deal out 4 cards and pick 4 random heroes. So there are randomizers for heroes. We also have randomizers, as you can see, for items. Oh, these got mixed in. These are the spell randomizers right here. So once again, items and spells. Just had that little mix up. Game's not that easy to sort. I'll get those back in there as well. But as you can see, we also have the ones for weapons. And monsters, as you can see here, the different types of monster groups. And then finally, the spell ones. I'll just quickly organize that to make my life easier. tearing down the game can be a little bit of a pain in the butt. Now that that is done, we're going to look at setting up the monsters. Before that, I want to just showcase the Guardian keys. Now before you can fight the Thunderstone Guardian, you need to find 4 of these Guardian keys. 3 of them go in the level 3 monster deck, 2 in the level 2, then 1 in the level 1. Just placing them there, don't worry, we're going to shuffle all that stuff in. For the starting quest, we were told to have our level 2 monsters being the Hobgoblins. You can see their group right here, Hobgoblin Brutes. We then have the Undead Adventurers as our level 3 monsters. And then our level 1 monsters right there. So now we need to take the cards, shuffle them up. Just going to do a quick shuffle. And then we flip them over, reveal the monsters in the rooms. I'm going to try to keep them as far over as possible, just to make sure that everything is on camera. Now, if you happen to reveal a Guardian key when you're setting up the monsters, just reveal the next card and then reshuffle the deck. So we're going to place 2 Rangers. There's our level 3. Lastly, we'll set up the level 1 monsters. Now we'll place those in the dungeon as well. See where you got the key. Put it at the bottom, flip over the next card, and just reshuffle our monster deck. So we've just about got everything set up except for the heroes. I will take out the wound tokens. You see we get a nice bag of wound tokens. I like the fact that everything shows up in bags. It makes sorting the game very easy. I'm going to pile these in the wilderness where they're supposed to go. And now we're going to take a look at the side quests and the guild sponsorships. And I have neglected to take out our heroes, but when we get into how to play, I'm just going to place them. All you would do with the hero cards is place their stack, cleric, fighter, rogue, wizard. Actually, I can use the randomizers for an example, so I will do that. But before that, we'll take a look at these cards. So what you get with these is there's 4 of each, 1 for each player. You gain bonuses for when you defeat a monster. Healer's Order means if you are able to heal yourself. Warriors, basically, if you have a weapon. Rogue is by spending gold. And then the Mages Guild, well, Thieves Guild. And the Mages Guild is by using a spell. And this will give you extra experience. So depending on the hero that you want to play with, you're going to use that. I'm going to pick the Mages Guild for my character this time. Put that off camera with his character stuff. Take the rest of the stuff off camera. Now for the side quests, shuffle them up. You deal 3 of them face down to each player. Rest go back in the box, and when we take a look at them, you then see what you get. I like this one, 12 victory points. Your deck must contain 1 and only 1 copy of each card by title in the marketplace and in the guild quarters. Might not be the best for a 2-player game, but could be very good in a multiplayer game with up to 4 people. So this will be the side quest that I take. At the end of the game, if I meet the quest, I get 12 victory points. Now you may be wondering why I'm setting up only 1 player. Well, I'm just going to show you an example of a village phase and a dungeon phase. The way all these cards chain together, you really don't see until you've really built up a deck, and it will change every time. So let's see who the heroes would be. We've got oh no, wrong stack of cards. There it is, the stack with the heroes. So just to show you how we would set them up, or know which heroes we have out, we would be using Hawkswood, which would go in the rogue spot, Pylorian in the wizard spot. We have as our fighter a Stormhand, and our cleric is Silverhelm. So we'd have their stacks of cards, which includes heroes levels up to 3. So there's level 1, 2, and 3 heroes. Don't worry, we'll talk about how you get access to those in the how to play. So there you have it. You've taken a nice look at the components. So what we're going to do now is show you how to play the game by going through a full village phase and then a dungeon phase. I also may pull some of these cards here to give you an example of what a more complicated dungeon phase is going to look like. So keep it right here as we're going to keep trekking through this dungeon in order to become the strongest band of heroes in the village. And we're back, and we were going to start with the village phase. Now before we do that, I just want to showcase how heroes are different and what you can see from the different heroes. So level 1, he's a cleric. You've got his special abilities that can be done down there. So once you get up to level 2, you notice it is a more powerful ability. And then level 3 is even more powerful. And cost of the heroes to purchase is listed down there. Just like everything else in the game, the cost of purchasing the different gear tokens is there. For those of you that's joining us, those are lanterns. Didn't get them included in my set from AEG. Got double potions. The cost of all the different cards are right there. The cost for a treasure, if you want to just buy a treasure, is there. Now, I'm not going to be showcasing my player board. It's really not that important for the how to play. If I need to do it, I will bring it on camera. You will ever see what I'm doing with my starting cards. So we will shuffle these up. And I will draw 6 cards. Now, once I draw the cards, I must decide whether I'm doing a village phase or a dungeon phase. So we'll draw the top 6 cards. I'm going to place the rest on the top of my deck. And we've got a nice balance here. We've got the lantern. So this is going to show you what really a starting village phase is like. Now, when you decide that you're going to have a village phase, you need to decide where you're going to go in the village. And there are different things that you can do. I'm going to just place my deck right here. So I need to decide at first where I'm going to go. Oftentimes, it's good to go to the bazaar because if you have any extra gold, you can potentially buy something from the bazaar. Now, if you're in the guild's quarters, you may level up heroes. Well, not just one hero, you can level up 2 heroes. You're always able to level up a hero. The temple will allow you to heal wounds. The shop of arcane wonders is just the treasure. So you go there, pay 10, get the treasure, straightforward. Same thing with the bazaar. Pay the required amount there and acquire those tokens. Now we'll take a look at the guild's quarters and the temple quickly. So let's say I did have some wounds. We'll take my player board, just showcase it right here. So let's say I did have 2 wounds. Now whenever I'm in town, I may automatically heal a wound. However, if I start in the temple, I must immediately place a card. So one of the 6 that I drew back on top of my deck, as so. We'll just imagine that my deck was empty, and then I'm able to get rid of an extra wound. That is how the temple works. Now, when it comes to the guild's quarters, every time you're in town, you may spend the XP to level up a hero. The way it works is it's the hero's level plus 2. So it'll cost you to upgrade to a level 4 hero. Not level 4, sorry. A level 2 hero will cost you 4 XP if you're upgrading Hawkswood to the level 2 version of Hawkswood. You must spend those 4 XP tokens. If you ever want to upgrade your Adventurer level 0 hero to a level 1, it will cost you 3 XP. Those XP are destroyed. Normally you can only do this once during your turn. If you're in the guild's quarters, you may do it twice. So for example, I could spend 6 XP, and when you upgrade your adventurers, they are then removed from the game, and I could pick 2 level 1 heroes to add to my deck. And I'm always allowed to buy a card from the marketplace. So those are the actions that we can take in the village. Now let's go through what an actual village turn would look like. So we've got a total of 5 gold. So when we do our village phase, we reveal our cards. So for the sake of keeping things simple, I'm going to reveal everything here. So we have a total, I'll just stack these adventurers actually. We have a total of 5 gold, meaning I can buy a card worth 5 that would go directly into the discard pile. In this case, I'm going to buy the Tome of Knowledge. spoils, meaning after I have defeated a monster. That's the only time I can trigger a spoils effect. I may destroy this card to level up a hero without paying the cost in XP. So this will go into my discard pile. So as my discard pile is off camera. However, we do have the lantern, which is lucky. So after you're completing your village phase, you may take a dungeon phase. If you do, you may not move out of the wilderness. Now, the important thing about that is we're now able to move into the wilderness, which is where we'll start our next turn unless we decide not to, and we can fight the rat. We have 3 adventurers for a total of 3 fight. And you can see the rat there has a total of 4. Luckily, we also have the dagger, which we may equip. So even though we use it for gold, we can equip it, which will give us a total of 4 fight this time. And if it's wielded by a 0 level hero, we can choose to draw another card. Don't necessarily want to do that right now. So we have enough, as you can see right here, to defeat the rat. Now I'm going to pick up the rat just so you can see on camera. It says you may level up one of your 0 heroes to an adventurer. So 0 heroes adventurers, ignoring the cost. Meaning we get to take a level 1 hero. As I pick the Mage Guild, we're going to take Pylorian, the Human Wizard, and they will go into our discard pile along with all of these cards and the Tome of Knowledge. We then pick our next set of cards, which is going to be identical because we actually drew a proper split. Now, it would be our next turn, and we get to decide once again if we are going to do a village phase or a dungeon phase. So as I got a really nice split, we're just going to do another village phase. I need to decide where I want to go in the village. We're actually going to start in the bazaar this time. I have the exact same cards as last time. So we've got our 3 adventurers, 1 dagger, these cards for a total of 5 gold. Now I could have boosted the skill on my adventurer if I'd so chosen to be able to equip an item. What I want to do this time is I'm going to buy a short sword. And that'll then go into my discard pile. I'm then going to spend my other 2 gold at the bazaar to buy 1 food. That food may be used to add 2 skill to a hero or 1 gold. It is up to you. So those go onto my player board. Once again, we're going to use the lantern. Go ahead, fight the rat. And this time I would take a Hawkswood and remove the adventurer from my deck. So I actually neglected to do that. I'm going to just go through my discard and grab that. So over the course of my starting 2 turns, I've removed 2 of my adventurers from the deck and upgraded them to level 1 heroes. And that's what you're really going to be doing in the village. You're going to be moving around, hopefully getting lanterns again to the wilderness at the early part of the game, buying spells so you'll be able to do a proper dungeon phase. Now, what I'm going to do is we're going to take a cut right here. I'm going to make up a nice mix of cards so that you're able to see what a dungeon phase will look like. And we'll be back because I'm going to keep on questing through this dungeon to become the Thunderstone champion. Well, beat the Thunderstone champion. Well, it's the Guardian, so I guess that would make me the champion. Now we're going to take a look at the dungeon phase. As we're starting a dungeon phase, I wanted to just highlight the way your hit points work. You'll notice that there is a number on these hit points. Now, depending on how much HP you have left, that's how many cards you can draw on your turn. If you run out of HP, can't draw any cards. So just to give a quick example, if I have 2 wounds, I'll be down to 5 HP, meaning I only redraw 5 cards on my next turn. Now, with that being said, let's take a look at how a dungeon run will work. I'm actually going to bring this back because you'll notice just the sequence. So it's always reveal your hand, equip your weapons, you produce your light, move through the dungeon, then you will resolve any before battle effects, determine the winner, then the after battle effects, and then you destroy any loot and refill the zone. We've got a real sweet hand that I built here. So let's, for the sake of, you know what, we have some space right here, and I believe it'll be just enough to showcase the cards. As you can see, the light that we generate is here. So with the total of the characters that we have, I'm just going to put these guys out over here. So we have a lantern, we have a fireball, we've got a Hawkswood. Don't worry, I'll show you Hawkswood in more detail. We also have Pylorian, so she also generates 1 light. Then we've got a short sword, and we do have the Thunderstone Shard, but unfortunately it's not really effective this time, so I'm just going to move it off camera. So we can take a look at the light. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 light that we've generated. Now moving into these spaces cost 0 light. If we move into this space here, it would cost us 1 light. We could then move into this space here. We can move adjacently. But just remember, each space you move into, you have to have the light to spend it. So you want to plan out your route. Don't forget there are some alert effects that may happen depending on the rooms that you move into. Once your light is spent, you can't sort of like backtrack. But we've got more than enough light to get to where I would like to go. So let's take a look at what we'd want to do for this dungeon run. Well, ideally we want to beat one of these big guys. But we could beat the Goblin Berserker fairly easily. We have the damage there. As you can see, it's 4 plus 1 from the room. We see how many wounds we take, the amount of XP we get. So I'll just pick this up. 2 wounds, 2 XP, and we get to draw a treasure card. We also get the room bonus of 1 food. But we want to go after the big guys. And these guys give you the best rewards and the best stuff. Now, our path through the dungeon matters because if we move through this place, we'd have to discard a gear token if we don't have a rogue. We do have a rogue, so we're totally fine. But let's just trace through. So there's a before battle effect on this card, meaning if we were fighting the Goblin Etten and we did not have a rogue, so I'll just pick it up. So before we even got into the fight, unless you have a rogue, discard 2 heroes or 1 hero if you only have 1. Meaning I'd potentially have to fight him without any hero cards. But we got Hawkswood, so we could easily defeat him. But we want to go down into the dungeon, meaning we're going to fight the Ranger. Unless you have a rogue, discard 1 random card when you enter this room. Got a rogue, don't need to discard anything. And before that, I neglected to do it. I'm just going to slide these down. We will have equipped the short sword on Hawkswood to give her +4. So we're going to take a look at the Ranger. So it's an undead ancient adventurer, does 2 wounds, 6 XP, 6 thunderstones, +2 for a total of 8. We get a treasure card, but it's +2 for each of our human heroes. Pylorian is a human wizard, meaning that this is a total of 9. Well, we've got 3, 4, 5. We got a total of 10 here when added up, so we are still good. Now we would take 2 wounds. So I'm going to take those 2 wounds, place them over on the player board. We would gain a total of 8 XP. So there's 8 XP. Placing them on the player board as well. We get to draw a treasure card. So we've got the Enduring, a nice weapon. You notice the treasure cards are also worth victory points at the end of the game. We have now defeated the Ranger, meaning we will then place it at the bottom of the monster deck, face up. We then refill the space. And you notice there's an after battle effect here that says you go all the way back to the start of the wilderness. Now I'm going to just look through the deck to give you an example of what would happen if you found a key. Well, they're all together. Not that big of a deal. But let's say the card we revealed, put this back, put the thing back, had been the Guardian key. Well, we take the key, we place it out to symbolize we are getting closer to unlocking the way to beating the Thunderstone Guardian. We will then reveal the next card and place it into that dungeon room. So my turn is now over. I completed this. I'm going back to the wilderness. But before I forget, we've got a spoils ability here on Hawkswood, which means we may buy 1 gear token. So if we take a look at all the gold generated, now we had our Thunderstone Shard, which generated 2 gold, but it's off camera right now. A total 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we can buy only 1 gear token, meaning I'd probably just buy a potion for 4, maximizing my reward. We're back in the wilderness. These cards all then go into our discard pile, and we're now getting ready for our next turn once it becomes our turn. That would stay there. And there you have it. That's how you do your dungeon phase in Thunderstone Quest. Now, for those of you wondering about the XP, or how you win the game, you also get these XP tokens, which count as victory points. You generate those from the monsters. You also have victory points on the cards, and even on your level 3 heroes, which give you 5 victory points. You also get 2 victory points for level 2 heroes. And the player with the most victory points will win the game. So we've taken a look at it. We've taught you how to play. You've seen some of the cool stuff. I did neglect one thing. I did beat that monster before earlier with a wizard and a spell, meaning I would have also got an extra XP. Don't forget your guild sponsorships. They're very important. So you've seen it, how to play Thunderstone Quest. So keep it right here as I'm crawling out of the dungeon to join Julie for a review of the game. So Thunderstone Quest. What did you think of the game? And you're definitely going first because this is a competitive game and it's not like a light competitive game. This is a heavy competitive game.
Yeah, well, honestly, it scared me a little bit. I really didn't want to. We've been pretty busy, and I really didn't want to be picking fights with you, playing a game. So I was.
It's not Star Wars Rebellion. Big box like Rebellion, but it's not Rebellion.
So I was a little leery, and I have to say I came at it a little concerned that we were going to be duking it out.
Yes, teaching her the game was not easy. It was quite clear that she was like, I don't really want to play this.
Well, it seems a little bit, and that's one thing I would say, it seems a little bit more daunting when you take everything out. There are a lot of components, and there's a lot of different aspects that you have to consider. But that being said, it doesn't take that long to get.
The rule book is definitely well done. I'll talk more about it, but everything is straightforward, well presented, even a great FAQ.
So I have to say we played quite a few. I mean, we played the first campaign and a half.
We did a tutorial just to learn the game based on what they recommended. And then we also did, as you said, we went 2/3 because each quest is 3 quests. So we are 5 missions in so far to a campaign playthrough. That's right. We're doing campaign playthrough on a competitive game. Not going to spoil it, but, that should give you some ideas to our thoughts.
Well, I mean, a lot of this. So first of all, the art is great on this. Who I don't remember who you said the artist was, but it was a.
No, I don't. I didn't credit the artist, but you know what? I will add that to the video description because the art is fantastic. I love looking at all the cards. Everything's distinct, and for how many quests there is a lot of art in this game, like a ton. The only thing I'd say that's not very nice in the art department is the board. That's okay. They spent it all on the cards. Yeah,
the board actually just gets lost, honestly, behind all the cards, and that's okay. And I have to say, in juxtaposition to the fact that the art is so nice, the cards are fairly thin. Unfortunately for us, this means that we're gonna, I'm gonna spoiler alert here, since we enjoyed it so much, we're likely going to have to sleeve this game because, just in our first couple of playthroughs, the cards are getting,
There's a little bit of damage. Some of it was actually just me manipulating the cards in the box, like them falling over a little bit. They did start to get dinged up. So we will be sleeving the game, which is going to be a significant investment considering the crazy amount of cards in the game. I think there's probably 400 or 500 cards. So
there's a lot of cards. So, I mean, what I like about it, I always like, and I'm fairly consistent in this, I like wizards and mages. And so there are a couple different ones in here that are interesting. One particularly, one wizard type that I didn't enjoy as much. I don't know what was going on, but it just, in that playthrough, just wasn't working for me. That is the one playthrough that Jason beat me by 30 points.
No, 20 points. It's actually the way our campaign has gone. I whooped her once. She whooped me once. She then whooped me again. I then whooped her once. And then the other campaigns have been very close. And she has a slight lead on me now of 15 points. But that's just 4 points. The nice thing about it is, though, with the campaign play, we've got the quests in the expansion, and we have 2 more quests, meaning we've got 8 full quests to go through, so it ain't over yet, folks.
So, I mean, to get to the positives that I like about this so that we don't end up with a, 30-minute review of the game, I do enjoy that there's different types of heroes that you can use. You obviously want to try not to be, and we've just played it 2 players. I can imagine it's only worse when you're playing 4 players. You don't want to be going after the same thing that somebody else does. That's the only times that I did have some resentment, is when you were trying to go for the same things that I was going for. And,
But sometimes you have to. Like, it's part of the game, depending on the side quests you get. Like, the nice thing about playing it 2 players, you can be respectful and playing more against the game. Obviously, you still want to take some steps to block people from scoring massive points. Like,
see, he says that, but I never do it that way.
Not like in the way of like, I'm going to block you, but it's more like, if I'm going to score a lot of points doing this, I should be doing
Well,
that.
and you did I'm going to buy this card so that you don't get that card.
I did not do that.
In any case.
The only time I did that was when I got lots of bonus points for level 3 heroes.
So that's, that is interesting. The fact that you can, level up your heroes.
And it's limited.
And that there's limited resources. And also, as you're playing it, if you're playing it in campaign mode, there are cards that you get to keep in your deck. So your starting deck gets bigger, so you start off a little bit stronger every time you play. Mm-hmm. And there is an advantage to winning, because you get first choice in that card that you get to keep. So that is fun as well.
Yes. And the one thing I do want to mention is, as your starting decks get bigger, make sure you keep the proper cards, because if you don't keep the right stuff, eventually you might be starting out with a deck of 30 cards as you go through an entire campaign. Well, just to give you an idea, you want to make sure you still have the proper resources available to you.
Yeah, because you make your choice before certain resources disappear. Because resources do disappear.
They do come back, but
sometimes, yeah. And so, we've both, I think, in as we played through, picked cards that we wished we hadn't picked and that we had taken something else. I have a particular weapon that I think I've used 3 times because it just never works out for me. So, there are choices. Sometimes it's not the most expensive thing on the deck that you want to keep, even if you won. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
So
what's your favorite part about it, I would say, in terms of just the competitive nature, considering the fact that normally if it's highly competitive like this one is?
Well, and I think, comparing it to another deck builder that's a little bit more competitive, like Clank, I would say, I prefer this one because it's more of you're playing against the game, versus I find in Clank, if I'm thinking Clank in space, you're really trying to win first. And I think in this one it's less in your face, because you're playing until all of the keys come out, and so you don't really know when that's going to happen, and it's not like one player can control when the game will end. It's going to happen when it happens and when that last key appears. So I think that's one of the things I like the most.
And that definitely let you win a couple times.
Well, and it let you win sometimes as well. So it's part of the random nature of, you don't know when that game will end. Once you turn that last key, that's it. The game's over, and then you're fighting the Guardian, basically. Yes. So I think that's one of the things I like about it. I also like the fact that, you've got a class and you can try to play with a different strategy. You can play with one class, you can play with the 4, you can be trying to, so there's different ways that you can do it. And I think those are the 2 things I think I appreciated most about this game.
I think specialization in the classes is also fairly key. You don't need to go all in on one class. Doesn't typically work out very well, but as you're building your deck, you're going to find that, especially in a campaign mode, certain cards are going to work better with certain character types. Like, I've definitely built a deck around rogues, whereas Julie's building a deck more around mages. Now, that doesn't mean we're not going to use clerics or even start changing that up to build them, like, to be more balanced with fighters. It's just the way that it works. And in our last play that we had, like, my gold generation was just far and above your own, and we had a very, very slow start. So while that really sort of hindered her, she was looking over at me, watching me still buy cards, doing stuff, and then when finally, like, had the right situation, it was just like, go. Like, there was no stopping me. I was just going ahead. That being said, she had a much better side quest than I did, and caught up. It should have been nearby more, but
still beat me by like 20
I
something
know, my
points.
side quest was terrible, though. That's what I meant. Should have another 10 points in there. But that's another thing I do like about the game, the variable side quests. Also your guild sponsorships. And the guild sponsorships mean, if you're a thief, mage, warrior, or the Healers Guild. Depending on how you've built your deck around and the cards you're trying to buy, you can definitely gain some extra XP that way. And it's one of the things that I really like because it rewards you for specializing a little bit. But just remember, over specialization can be the death of your deck. And I also really like the fact that the way you draw your cards is variable with your hit points. I think that's one of the things that is probably one of my favorite aspects of the game. We never come close to dying in the game, but taking damage is something that you have to consider because when you're drawing 3 cards, all of a sudden, if you weren't racking up a lot of victory points, that turn you draw 3 cards, if you don't get really lucky and draw like 3 cards worth 3 gold,
it's either that or then you're basically it's that limited resource again that comes into play because if you're down because you're injured, you're slower, you're taking more time basically. So either you're recuperating at the temple, which was one of the mechanisms, but I wasted 2 full turns while you were generating. So I mean, yes, I was able to beat a bigger monster, get more rewards, but he beat me up more and I spent time recuperating longer while you were beating smaller villains. So I mean, again, it's that choice. It's that limited resource, and it's the decisions you make in the game.
And the one thing I will say about this, I don't know if I would want to play this in terms of negative with 4 players in terms of campaign mode.
No, probably not.
That's not a critique on the game. It's just that it's probably a lot longer. I like the fact playing it at 2. I like the choices that we're getting. I like the fact that we don't really butt up against each other on heroes. That being said, I really want to take this out with a larger group of players, play with the randomizers, and see what it's like with 4 players. I think it'd be fun to play like a campaign maybe through like 1 quest, going like, 1, 2, 3. But I don't know if I'd want to do what we're doing with a crazy long quest. I just think it would be a little too complicated, difficult to schedule and organize. But in terms of negatives with regards to the game,
I definitely
the card size once again is just probably the
card stock.
Card stock, yes, is definitely the biggest.
From a gameplay perspective, there is a certain random element to it because you're shuffling your deck of cards every time you're playing. So you don't know what you're going to come up with. And the villains also get shuffled in. And that last time we played, Jason alluded to the fact that he was buying cards and generating, but we were not killing any villains.
No.
And I can't even think, I probably played 10 or 12 rounds before I finally was able to get the right set of cards.
I don't think it was 10 or 12. I think it was more like 7.
I felt like 10 or 12.
It was long.
So basically every time I was drawing cards, I was never drawing enough because the order they came out, basically the level 1, which are supposed to be a little bit easier to beat, came out with the 2 biggest ones up front. And then everything else below was obviously higher as well. Now, it's meant to be difficult, but, at one point I said, okay, this is not fun. Because the way my cards were coming out, I wasn't even generating enough gold to be able to buy anything. And I just ended up always coming up short from a buying perspective or short from a killing the villain perspective. And that partly is, Jason was talking about my quest. In that case, I had given myself a quest that made my life a little bit more complicated, limiting what I could buy if I wanted to generate. But that being said, that's the little negative that I have, is that there is a fair amount of randomness.
There's more than fair. There's a lot of randomness in the game.
That it means that it can make it a little bit unpleasant. Now, that being said, once it started going, we were able to start, killing the villains as well, and it made it more. But that was one of the things that I thought, okay, if this had been my first experience with it, I'm not sure I would have played again.
No, I can understand that. But looking at everything that we played, I think that was really just specific to that scenario itself, because the only time there was the monsters that were that difficult, also with the tiles themselves, that's one of the things we didn't mention that is really cool and talk about in a minute, is that we had the 2 most difficult monsters in very difficult situations where they were getting boosted by the dungeon tiles that they were in. It was very particular, and it was the first time that we saw it out of 6 plays of the game. So I wouldn't expect to see that happen again. If it does happen and you're getting frustrated with it, you can always just house rule it, move a monster, and get the game going. But as Julie said, randomness is all over the place in this game. And it can definitely be frustrating. I think that in a single playthrough of the game, the randomness would feel a lot more frustrating. As we've said, our games have been fairly swingy. Two of the games that Julie won, I had absolutely terrible side quests where she had a very solid one. And the games were like this close where the side quest, if I had a better one, might have just put me over the top or led to a tie. So expect it. But over the course of a full campaign, it's all going to balance itself out. And I don't think it's that apparent. Whereas it can be more apparent in a single playthrough. Now, I think that really covers most of the negatives that I had with the game. Another one positive I didn't want to say is I love the fact how every quest and all there's 27, because this is the Kickstarter version, 27 different dungeon tiles that we have. And they're all different. You have to lay them on a specific way. There's level 1, level 2, and level 3 dungeons. But you can use randomizers, lots of cool stuff that you can do. So if you're playing a one-off game, it's going to be different every time. And I didn't really talk about the narrative of the quest because the narrative isn't quite there. I mean, it's really just a blurb that you're going to get. But the one thing I do have to say is that that blurb does set up the quest you're going on, what you're doing. You do get a little bit of flavor about the heroes that you're going to be playing. And I do like it. It's not very thematic, but
there's a little bit of flavor.
Yeah, there's just enough of it, and it's not, it's like the little sprinkle of salt, so just enough to make it worth your time, and it doesn't take that long to read. But overall, I have to say, we've enjoyed our plays, and have very few negatives besides really the cardstock. Oh, mentioned quickly, rulebook is actually very good. FAQ answers a lot of questions, so I do believe that this is the second printing that we have, so just keep that in mind. Second printing of it, so there might be some differences between other rule books, but everything was well put together, well structured, fairly easy to find. There was a couple of things I had to look up, but nothing that took me forever. Also, reference guide on the back, thumbs up.
Okay, so based on that, what's your rating?
This is hard because I could go really high on this game. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rate this game as this box itself. Now, we do it with the cooperative expansion. When we get the cooperative expansion, I will probably give you a rating for Thunderstone Quest, like the whole game, but I'll also rate the expansion individually, and you'll get my 3 scores. This one itself, I'm giving it an 8. I think the co-op could push this game up to a 9 as a collection essential.
I agree with you. I think it's an 8. I mean, it might have been... I don't know. I think I'm debating whether or not what would have put it to an 8.5. I think it had a potential to be an 8.5.
Cardstock. I think the cardstock dings in.
The cardstock, I think it's also a little bit maybe of the randomness that got to me as well. But it's still a very solid 8. I mean, there's not that many games that we've rated 8.
No, not that many. This is definitely way up there for us. And for us to give a competitive game, especially one that's victory point oriented, and maybe I've given some of them an 8, but for Julie to give that an 8 and say, hey, we're going to play through the whole campaign, that tells you something about this game. But don't worry, you're going to be seeing some more Thunderstone Quest coming up because we are going to be jumping into Thunderstone Quest Barricades, the cooperative version.
So that being said, there will be links that will appear. For now, there'll be links to other games. When we do have the cooperative version, there'll probably be the links to the unboxing as well, right, Jason?
Yes.
And also, don't forget on that note to like, comment, or subscribe and hit the notification button so that when we do have the cooperative review, that you'll get to know as well because. You'll get that content. What about social media, Jason? Yeah,
so down below in the video description, after all of that great stuff about the game itself and our timestamps, you can find links to our social media feeds. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We've been slow on it, boosting it back up. If you don't love Thunderstone, though, since that's primarily what we've been playing, you might want to wait a week or so because there's a lot of pictures of Thunderstone Quest on there. And what time is it?
Well, it's time to grab our drinks.
Grab our rival. My rival in this campaign.
No. We're going to keep playing games.
Well, we're definitely going to keep playing Thunderstone Quest. I mean, we've got 8 quests of content. That means a total of 24 plays.
But
of
I've
this
liked
game.
that you very clearly confirmed that I am still beating you.
Yes, you are still beating me by 15 points. Well, we'll give you a campaign update because before we do the co-op version, we will finish Quest 2. Just want to get that done. See who's winning then.
Mm-hmm.